Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Brandon, your trusted realtor, and I'm coming to you with part two of the interview. Now, this is the middle part of the interview, and here we dive into all of the nitty gritty, the search, the highs and the lows, and the tidbits. So make sure you like and subscribe the video, and you turn on that notification so that way you can tune in and stay in tune to the latest and greatest material that I have coming for you. Remember, the home search can be scary and it can be overwhelming, but remember, my job is to make sure that I break that down for you. Whether you're buying a home or you're selling the home, I'm your trusted realtor. Let's get into it.
You wrestle with that. You made the decision. Things changed in your life, and we all have those situations. And you said, "I got to buy a new. I got to maybe think about doing something different." So you came to that decision. Like, what was Corona that critical moment for you where you said, "I need to maybe think about doing something different"?
So Corona pulled the trigger, right? Because at this point, she's so disrespectful. She don't even get her first name no more. She's no longer Corona. She's just Rona. She's disrespectful, right? So Rona pulled the trigger. I've been kind of like tap dancing this thought since 2019. And you know how you end a year, you go into a new, you're like, new year, new me. These are all the things on my to-do list. And it was that plus a new decade. So it was like new year, new me, new decade. All right, I'm going to focus on this. And then we got stuck with Rona, and you have no other choice to be stuck with, for me, because I'm single in this house by myself, to be stuck with me, myself, and I, to really start thinking about these thoughts like, okay, bitch, like, sorry. I'm like, are you editing?
I guess I will be. Yeah, probably. I see.
You know what? Okay, sorry.
There you go.
So I'm stuck in this house with me, myself, and I, and I'm like, okay, B, what you gonna do? So it's, Rona pulled the trigger in that regards.
Okay. All right. That makes complete sense. Yeah. It's always just like necessity is like invention is the mother of necessity, or necessity is the mother of invention. However, that said, it's just like the necessity of a situation forces us to really begin to reevaluate ourselves in situations, right?
In the words of my great, great mentor, Whitney Houston, my.
Right, the times that we're in. So how have you been collecting information? Like talk to me how you start. Where have you started the process?
All right, so a couple of things, right? So I started first with a few apps like realtor.com and Zillow, just to kind of see what is out there for me in terms of like home buying, the type of home buying, because I am a person on the go, and I'm trying not to allow Rona to make me forget that. Yeah. So looking at what type of home buying is going to work best for me in my lifestyle, whether it's like townhouse or condo or even a traditional home. And those apps have allowed me to see variations of those formats. Mm-hmm. And to be really honest with your viewers, I talk to you a lot about certain things. I kind of pick your brain. And in addition, I also have a local realtor that I've known for a while. He's helped me find my previous apartments. And so I pulled the trigger and was like, hey, Julian, like, I'm interested. Let's begin the process. So it's been a little bit of a trifold type of thing. Some of my own learnings just by looking on those apps, trying to figure out the areas I want to live in, and then moving into more professional advice as well. So.
Okay. So it's been very incremental for you. You started doing your own personal search, which is probably something you recommend. And you're still in the process of doing that. So I take it you just recently.
I'm a newbie.
Okay, so you just contacted Julian. It's like you're in the thralls of this, right?
I'm in the very beginning, like baby. I'm in the crawling stages right now, because literally I just started having this conversation with Julian like 2 weeks ago. So it's about for me planting the seed, and I thought this time would be the best because we really can't do anything except you can't do open houses. You might be able to do a drive-by because that's social distancing. I still feel like that's also stalking, but that's besides the point. But this is a time to really kind of spend your time researching, because once we do get through this, it will be later in the summer, probably early fall, and then you can spend the time really investing in the research and having a better understanding where I want to land. So that's why I say I'm in the beginning steps of all of this.
And you said something before that you already had a relationship with a realtor. So it kind of helped to expedite that process for you. Do you feel like?
Yes, absolutely. And, he helped me find my he helped me with this apartment, and his company helped me with my first apartment. And so when I first moved here, I used the realtor to help me find it. And so when I thought about moving into this place, I reached out to the company and they assigned me him. And he and I fell in love with each other. Like, he's such a great resource. So even though I was looking for an apartment, I never thought one day I was going to, end up wanting to buy a house here. But he was the first person. He sends me mailers all the time to stay in touch. He'll just randomly text me during the holidays. So he kind of is always on the forefront of my mind. So when I made the decision, like, hey, B, I need to start looking for a home, he was the first person I thought about. Like, out of all of the other people that I know as realtors, I felt really loyal to him and felt compelled to have him involved in my journey through this home buying process.
Yeah, that's a really good testament, that having that relationship with someone, even if you are a renter, not being afraid to talk to a real estate agent and saying, hey, even though I'm not in a place right now where I want to buy a property, you never know.
Yeah.
Like, at least they can put you in a situation. And do you find that with working with a realtor, just kind of pivoting, working with a realtor when you first got to Miami to help you find like a property, how was that experience? And did you find that to be helpful?
Yes, because I was moving from Atlanta here, I knew nothing about Miami. And so I needed somebody, and I also had to do a lot of research in terms of area and apartment hunting virtually ahead of time before I even got here. So it allowed me to have a little bit more comfort in having that additional resource. They were able to say, like, here are some areas I would recommend based off of, your lifestyle and just listening to some of your criteria. Let's start here first, and then we can just see how this works best for you, and we can decide whether or not I'm going to use your word pivot to make any adjustments to our search area or some of the requirements. I'll tell you, it was a huge lesson of a learning moment for me, just because some of the things that I took for granted renting in Atlanta are like amenities here. So, when I was going through my list of some of the things that were my must-haves, the must-haves and necessities I thought come just generally did not make it onto the list until we physically were looking at apartments here in Miami. And I had the random questions of, why is there a box in the window? Where's the AC? Why is it not centralized? Or I don't see washer and dryer anywhere. Oh, I didn't realize I needed to tell you that. I didn't realize I was an amenity here. So having those conversations, having those learning moments helped me to kind of navigate what were my needs and my expectation for a space that I was going to occupy once I got here.
And I can imagine that being significantly more difficult, doing that by yourself and having those surprises pop up every time that you found a place on Craigslist, because 80% of renters find their properties on Craigslist when they're doing it themselves.
I did not know that. I forgot about Craigslist. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Significant number of people start their property searches, even if it's to buy a home, on Craigslist, which they're better now, but it's probably not having that disappointment of going to a property and saying, oh, there's an AC unit in here. You don't get a washer and dryer, or, oh, this is not renovated, or renovated.
That too.
Renovation has a different meaning here.
Absolutely.
Than in Atlanta. Okay.
And you said something really, I think, that was very generous. The word difficult. For me, it wasn't difficult. It was overwhelming. And things like this overwhelms me quite easily, to the point where I'm just like, what is happening? It's like, Mayday. No, I need somebody to do the footwork for me and, like, literally almost on a silver platter say, here are your options. Take a look at these. Because if I'm having to dive in myself blindly, I get overwhelmed and I start to drown. And, he can't swim anyway, so.
And as a renter, this is probably like the question that everyone has on their mind. How much did you pay that real estate agent? Nothing,
actually. So, and I was so shocked, because when I had the conversation with him initially, and he was like, okay, I need this, this, and this. And as I ended the first call, I was like, he didn't ask me for payment. So when we had our second call to follow up, I started the conversation off with payment. I was like, so thank you so much for following up. So we did not talk about the cost here and what I owe you in order for blah, blah, blah. And I could tell, it was also my first time working with a realtor for an apartment coming from Atlanta. So, I showed my little naivety there. And he paused and he goes, there's no payment from you. He was like, this relationship is actually won't cost you anything. My job is to get you into a home, and then, you know, the payment piece is on the back end from, you know, whoever else. And I was like, oh, well, here's an additional list of what some of my recommendations. I swear I do that.
But, you know, and that's really critical to know, is that you got the expertise of someone who is a licensed professional, someone who took the time to study,
Yes.
go to school, actively sells houses. And the reality is, if we're going to keep it real, makes more money selling a house than spending time putting you in a rental.
Probably.
And in that same package, you get that whole expertise and you pay nothing for it.
And the experience, the experience of a walkthrough. Most of the time, Julian drove me. Like, I rode with him to, you know, the place, so we didn't have to drive. Because let me tell you something, you know, I don't like driving.
Okay.
So it was, you know, you get this entire experience, which was quite lovely. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's a completely different interaction. Having that sense of understanding of the community, understanding of the complex that you're going to be in and the space as it relates to your needs and your wants, and not having to start that. So you can start that, and you can do that on Google, but that's also like, do you want to build the shed yourself and you don't have any tools, or do you want to go to Lowe's or Home Depot and have them deliver it for $250?
Exactly. And so, to add to your analogy, for me, it would be, do you want to build this shed with a hot glue gun versus actually about to go and buy damn tools? Because let me tell you something, I ain't got no tools around here. It's me and a glue gun, baby.
That is true. But you know what? When you buy a house, I'm sure you'll have plenty of tools and brushes.
Tools
They
and
can feel
brushes,
like right
brushes
next
and
to each other.
tools. Yes, building things, whether one face or one tool shed at a time.
Great. So there's loads of information and value to be added by working with a realtor and having just someone who has that information.
Listen, as a person on the go, it's really a relief, like a moment of relief. A stress reliever is the better word, because when you're on the go, you really don't have a lot of time to like dedicate for a thorough search. I find that if I'm in the backseat of an Uber and I'm thinking about it, then I'll open up the Zillow app and I'll try to do something real quick, but it's never long enough before I'm out the car doing something I need to do. Yeah. Or I'm in getting ready for bed, and you know, I spend maybe like the last 10 minutes before I turn off the nightstand, like the lamp, that I'm looking at, you know, homes. So it's very much just so random in terms of being able to spend time, that the realtor helps a lot, because it's a constant follow-up, it's a constant influx in my inbox of information, and for me to just give feedback, and it's a process of elimination. So I actually am starting to learn the value of a realtor, excuse me.
And you know, that goes to say a lot, because a lot of people question whether or not they should have a realtor in the transaction, or they see themselves as being able to do the job. But there's a lot that goes into that transaction. Not only that piece, but it's also the paperwork and the negotiation.
Absolutely. God bless anybody that wants to do this themselves. I don't know what kind of cocktail you sipping on, but baby, no, I know I couldn't. I'm not that person. Maybe there is, but there is value in working with someone that actually has the industry knowledge and expertise. That's like, for me, that person who's teaching them themselves how to do makeup versus going in and collaborating with a makeup artist who has the expertise that can also share with them additional tips and tricks. So that way, when they are trying to teach themselves, they can incorporate that knowledge into their own personal artistry.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's talk about some of your personal highs and lows right now in the transaction. Where are you personally or emotionally? What is your personal high right now in this transaction?
Okay, so, you know, like I mentioned, I'm still in the baby steps of it all. So for me, I feel like I'm on, almost like on a hill, in a sense, because you have your high and you have your lows. Some days the low is me getting anxious about this, and a little bit of anxiety about like, holy crap, I'm actually going through like having to have a conversation with the lender and finding paperwork to send this in. And then the high is opening up the app or getting an email with some areas to look at. And I'm like, ooh, this area looks nice. And trying to figure out what feels right for my personality, or looking at homes that are just, you know, outside of the price range, inside of the price range, just kind of getting an idea of, different styles of homes. So I think right now, me learning different types of homes and the different types of homes that I want is kind of exciting. So that's a real high. Because another thing I also take into consideration is living here in Florida, especially in Miami, it's hurricane season every year for me. So I also want a home that, if it is a traditional home, that sits a little bit higher, that can't easily be flooded if it rains for a couple of days and things like that, or in a good location. So my high is really kind of exploring the variances of homes.
And also what your needs are as it relates to, I heard a lot of that, as is you don't want to have to deal with flooding issues. You don't want to have to deal with scares or emergency issues. You just want to be able to enjoy the property as is as much as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So talk to me about the search. You've been using Zillow and Trulia, and how has that been going for you? Like, have you felt overwhelmed by the search? Like, what is your feelings behind that?
So I haven't used Trulia just yet, but I think I'm going to add that to my list. Thanks so much. But I've been using Zillow and realtor.com.
Okay.
And
great source.
It is. It's really kind of cool, actually. And you can I've learned that you can make your little filters and all that other stuff, and you only see the information that's relevant for you. So it's coming. I'm really still in this crossroad of what format that I want for myself. Mm-hmm. I see some really, really nice homes. I see some really nice condos. But let me tell you something. These condos and these association fees, baby, some of these association fees are like additional mortgages. I'm like, oh, y'all tried that. So That's why I'm saying, like, I'm going through all of these emotions in terms of trying to figure out what I feel like is going to work best, which I think is either going to be a townhouse or a traditional home, because unless I find a condo with a reasonable homeowner association fees, I don't know.
And isn't part of that, tell me whether you feel like this, because I'm like you. I feel some kind of way when it comes to condo association fees or HOA fees, and just charging for some place that I'm already paying for. But did you find that you looked at some of those places and you said, this place is as big as the apartment that I'm in now, and you want me to pay the mortgage and the condo association fee? Did that just kind of feel like a slap in the face to you, or is that just me?
Yes. And here's the thing. I understand the value of an HOA, especially, when it's reasonable and you have great amenities. But for example, I saw this one unit, a unit falls within my price range, but the HOA fee was $750 a month.
What did that include?
It better include unlimited wine. I'm going to tell you that much. But is my wine fridge stocked as well for $700 a month?
Right.
But it was, the traditional thing. Oh, the building has a pool. It has a gym. And I'm like, but what else? Like, do I get a one free meal a week? Like, for me, it did not seem, that seemed excessive, and it didn't seem worth it. Mm. So to your point, mortgage for a unit that may be slightly bigger than this, but you want $750 for an HOA? Bye.
Yeah, and a lot of times folks have to consider, one good thing to also ask is, what is included from a utility standpoint in that HOA? So
nothing. Oh, sorry. I got a little scarred by that. I'm so sorry.
And that is something good to know up front, because if you have to pay a HOA, it is always at least good to know whether or not any of the utilities are included. I am personally a fan of an HOA. If I'm going to pay a HOA fee and additional cost every month to live here, then include some utilities. Because I also find that to be helpful from a, like, taking my, not like this is the Real Tea, so this my YouTube channel. So I find that to be helpful and smart from a long-term investment standpoint, right? Because if you want to then rent that condo out sometime in the future, at least you then as the investor can then have an additional carrot to offer to a prospective tenant.
Absolutely.
By saying, you can rent this property and the water is included. And so that's kind of, they have to weigh their options, especially in a metropolitan city. They can say, ooh, this condo is a little bit more attractive because it includes the water. So at least.
Right, or cable or internet. But you know what's so funny? I had a friend who owned a townhouse, and a part of his HOA fee included lawn maintenance. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to pay my HOA fee and never have to worry about cutting my yard or maintaining my shrubbery, sign me up. Because you know what he's not about to do is I ain't going up there to cut no yard. So, instead of me having to pay somebody separately, it's now included into my HOA fee. I'll take something like that. Something that
Right.
feels like value added and not just some kind of ambiguous value. Besides, like, oh, there's a pool and there's a gym. Okay, I have a gym membership, and I can go to the beach.
Yeah.
And give me something that's going to feel more added and more personal for me.
Yeah. And you're right. That's huge. I think you hit the nail on the head. Value added. No one wants to spend money and there's no value associated with what they're spending.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Guys, so if you made it to the end, you see that the interview was chock full of information and tidbits, and it was pretty darn funny if I have to say so myself. So remember to tune in and stay tuned to the next part of the interview that I'll be bringing to you next week. Remember, more tidbits. Remember, T is for term. It's going to be dropping a little bit later on this week. So much more going. Remember, like and subscribe because all of that support means the world to me. Take care. All the best. Cheers.